Welcome to all of you. Here we'll discuss with you on the chapter 6, which is on the registration in GST. Okay, the different section which are in this chapter 6, they start with the section 22 up to the section 30. The section 22 relates with the person who are liable for registration. Person liable for registration. The section 23 deal with the person not liable for registration. Who are the person not liable for registration? That will be under section 23. The section 24 says about the compulsory registration, which are there in certain cases where a taxpayer have to compulsory register himself. Okay, the section 25 deal with the procedure of registration. Section 26 is the deemed registration. Section 27 special provision relating to casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. The section 28 deal with the amendment of registration. Any changes that you want to make in the registration, that will be under section 28. The section 29 deal with cancellation of registration, and the last section, which is section 30, is on revocation of cancellation of registration. These are the few sections which includes under the chapter of registration. Clear? Now you will try to remember what does section 22 up to 30 are related with. Now next, let us go to some of the highlight new system of good and service tax. It is one interface, means one online portal for all the requirement that you need to do. A dealer can just log in to the GST portal and do all the requirement for his registration, whether his registration, filing of return, payment of tax, whatever it is being done on the online. One interface where a taxpayer will be doing all the requirement on this portal, and then the processing will be done within 3 working days. Processing of the application will be always be processed within the 3 working days. Any updates which the GST system want to communicate with you, you will get the update through email or SMS in your mobile, because while doing registration you have to enter your mobile number. Then using this mobile number, all the alert for your transactions being done on the portal will be communicated to you through the email and SMS. Secure transaction mean all the transaction being done here, whether you are paying the tax through online banking, you need not worry about the security of your bank account. All the transaction is being done securely to protect your data. Filing form made easy. Mean all the procedure for filing of return is not that you have to go and file it manually. Here in this GST system, you have to file it online through the same interface, that is the online portal, where you'll file all the return which is required for you to file it. Okay, there will be only one interface where you'll do all the requirement, right from registration up to the filing of return, payment of tax, everything. You will do it in the same portal. 100% transparency. You can check the status of your application anytime. If you go to portal and log in with your username, password, you can check anytime the status of your application, whether the application has been approved or not, whether the application, what is the status of your application, all the detail you will get, and it is 100% transparency. Then why do we need the registration? What is the requirement here for getting a registration? By doing registration, you will get a GST number, GST registration number. And what you will do that? Utilize that GST number for any sale or purchase of goods and services. Okay, you'll have to use this GST number, and this GST number is a PAN base. That means it will be based on the PAN. Okay, what is PAN? Permanent account number. Mean this GST number will be a PAN base. For TDS deductor not having PAN is being used for registration. Then it is state specific. It is state specific. That means by looking at the GST number, you'll clearly identify it belongs to which state, because each and every state has been given by a specific code. Clear? TAN or tax deduction and collection account number is a 10-digit alphanumeric number required to obtain by all persons who are responsible for deducting or collecting tax under Section 203A of the Income Tax Act 1961. This is related to the tax deducting department, tax deducted at source. For them, they required to get a TAN number, which is a 10-digit alphanumeric number. Okay. Why do we need this GST registration? Is because it is legally recognized, mean it has been passed by the Indian Parliament, by our Parliament. It has been approved, and then we can avail the benefit of tax credit, proper accounting, because all the accounting here, it will be a proper one. Why? Because it is being stored in the system. Once you enter your data, those data will be stored in the system and thus give you a proper accounting. Then let us go through each of these sections related to this chapter 6, starting with the section 22, person liable for registration. What are the person liable for registration? Under this section 22, any or all type of entities who are carrying out supply of good or supply of services, or the supplies of both the goods and services, they require or they are liable for registration. Tax return preparer can enroll themselves for registration. That means these are the tax return preparer. These are the person who help taxpayer to file their return. Even this TRP also need to file a registration for themselves. And then what else? Who are eligible for registration? If the supplies is more than 20 lakh, 10 lakh for some states, 20 lakh for any other states, they need to get themselves registered. Suppliers who are making interstate supplies, they need to get themselves registered. Clear? Casual taxable person, they need to get themselves registered. These are all the who are the person liable for registration. These are all the person liable to register themselves under GST. This section 23 dealt with the person not liable for registration. Who are the person not liable? The person who does not require to register under GST, are those persons who are not liable to pay GST. Okay, that means any of those persons who, even though they are doing the supply of goods and services, but if the turnover does not cross the threshold limit, they need not register themselves under this GST. Agriculturists need not register themselves. The person providing goods and services or both which is liable to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism. These also are not liable to register themselves. Person supplying interstate supplies of handcraft below 10 or 20 lakhs. In some state is 20, in some state is 10 lakh. Interstate supplies below the threshold, they need not register themselves under GST. Then a job worker with turnover less than 20 or 10 lakh. Person making interstate supply of taxable service if turnover is less than 20 or 10 lakh. Okay. Person supplying service through e-commerce operator if agreed turnover is less than 10 or 20 lakhs. Well, this means it depends upon the turnover. If the turnover is less than the aggregate turnover, then they need not register themselves under GST. And then the section 24 dealt with the compulsory registration. What is compulsory registration? Why do we need compulsory registration? Compulsory registration in certain cases where the threshold limit is not applicable. This means whether or not you have crossed the threshold, that limit is not applicable if any person is making interstate taxable supply. If he is making interstate taxable supply, whether the threshold is less than the specified limit, even then he has to register himself under the GST. Any casual taxable person, he has to register himself under GST. It's compulsory for these casual taxable person to register themselves under GST. Person who are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, they need to register themselves under GST. Electronic commerce operator, input service distributor, they have to register themselves under GST. These are person who should have a compulsory registration. Okay. Person who required to deduct tax under section 51 does mean tax deduction at source. They have to do a compulsory registration. Person who make taxable supply of goods or services of both on behalf of other taxable person, whether as agent or otherwise, he has to get himself registered. Non-resident taxable person also need to get himself registered under the GST. The section 25 deal with the procedure for registration. How you will do the registration? What are the procedure that you have to do to get registration? Okay, now the registration, it depends upon the turnover, the annual turnover. The state like Arunachal, Assam, Himachal, Jammu Kashmir, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Manipur, all these states are which have been shown here. They are, if the annual turnover is 10 lakh, then they have to register themselves under GST. And these states which are highlighted in red, the threshold limit has been increased from 10 lakh to 20 lakh with effect from 1st April 2019. That means instead of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, the threshold limit has been raised from 10 lakh to 20 lakh. Okay. The annual turnover which is greater than 20 lakh for all other states and union territories have been increased from 20 lakh to 40 lakh with effect from 1/4/2019. For any other taxpayer other than non-resident and casual taxpayer, they have to apply within 30 days of liability. But for casual and non-resident taxable person, 5 days before the commencement of business, and this GSTIN will be active for 90 days and can be extended for another 90 days if the taxable person seek for extension of the time limit. Okay. In such cases, this taxpayer have to pay in advance the estimated liability at the time of registration. For them, for this non-resident and casual taxpayer, they have to pay tax in advance by estimating their liability at the time of registration. Clear? Now, where they will do the registration? They will register themselves with is on the online portal by logging into the site www.gst.gov.in. Once you enter the address, then there you will get a form where you have to fill up, you have to upload all your document, and it is here you will do only one platform, that is in gst.gov.in. Taxable person can also have a multiple registration, and if yes, under what condition? If no, why not? A single entity can have a multiple registration on different business vertical. If the same person is having 2 or 3 type of businesses, then he can have a multiple registration for different type of business vehicles. Clear? Deem registration. What is deem registration? That is the deem approve of application. The application where Aadhaar authentication is successful, deem approved if no action was taken by the proper officer within 3 working days, and now it has been increased to 7 working days with effect January 2021. The application is deemed approved if no action was taken within 7 days after receiving the reply to show cause notice. If the proper officer raise any objection to that application, but if no action has been taken by the proper officer after receiving the show cause notice after 7 days, then that application will be deemed approved. Field visit is compulsory if Aadhaar details are not provided or Aadhaar authentication failed. And this field visit should be completed within 21 days, which now we have been increased to 30 days. The application without Aadhaar is deemed approved after 30 days if no action is taken. Registration shall be deemed approved after the end of these 30 days. Clear? Section 27, special provision related to casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. For this type of taxable person, the validity of registration is 90 days or as specified in the application for registration. Any application for extension of validity has been filed by a taxpayer. The extension can be granted by a period of not exceeding 90 days. The tax liability. A taxpayer shall make advance deposit of tax at the time of his registration. Additional amount of tax to be paid on the taxability for the extended period if the taxable person seek for any additional validity for the extended period. Next, we have with the amendment of registration. Amendment of registration can be made. Any taxpayer can amend their registration on the core field and the non-core fields. What are the core fields? Core field will include the name of business, holder, stakeholder details, principal of business. They can make amendment in all in this core field and the non-core field also. Okay. But for the non-core field, there's no requirement to upload the document. There's no need for approval from the tax official. You can edit this non-core field online by your own. But for the core field, must be provide a valid reason with prescribed document. Okay. Name of business, all stakeholder detail, principal place of business, all this field. If you want to make an amendment on this field, a reason should be there. You have to provide a reason, valid reason, and a document to support your amendment. And all these fields which are in the core field, if any amendment is made, need the approval for amendment in this field. Section 29 deal with the cancellation of registration, whereby taxpayer they can cancel their registration by themselves on the closure of business if the aggregate turnover is less than the threshold limit for registration, if there is any transfer of business, merger or amalgamation of business, change of PAN, non-commencement of business within the stipulated time period, no liability post-registration, death of proprietor. These are some of the reasons by which a taxpayer can cancel their own registration. Then, revocation of cancel registration. The taxpayer by himself want to cancel their own registration due to some of reason discussed. But summatory cancellation is the cancellation initiated by officer enforced by the law. Revocation of cancel registration. If registration has been cancelled, the taxpayer can apply for revocation of such cancel registration, and request should be within 30 days of receipt of the cancellation order. If the cancellation order has been issued and if the taxpayer want to revoke the registration, he can revoke the registration within 30 days of the receipt of the cancellation order. But in case of rejection or expiry of the revocation period of 30 days from the date of service of the order of cancellation of registration, the taxpayer have to apply a fresh registration which will be allotted new GSTIN. Clear? This is all about the chapter 6 from section 22 to section 30.